Do you know how he's an expert? I don't really need to explain how this works because he's been on the Bishop's Hour and the Catholic Man Show. He's on it twice.
Wow. I was not on the Catholic Man Show. I don't even know what that is.
Now he's gaslighting me. I'm triggered.
What is the Catholic Man Show?
What did you say? The Catholic...
I was on the Pat McMahon Show.
Oh, Pat McMahon Show.
That's even better.
That's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
No, the other thing is too.
Oh,
the Catholic Man Show?
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't go on that. That doesn't sound like my area of expertise.
This eternal drama of our salvation playing out from the beginning of creation.
Our faith itself is inherently dramatic.
Dramatic.
It's so dramatic.
And yet this is how our God loves.
He loves dramatic.
Here for 2 weeks, I forgot myself.
Hey, right now, Rob is going the West Valley's here. Just that whole West Side. That's what he's thinking.
Yep.
No, he's missing it. He likes this. He likes
This
it.
parish needs a little bit of that.
Yeah,
A little spicy Latino.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Sorry.
yeah.
My bad.
Sorry, Rob.
It's going to be a very long episode.
I feel like. Yeah. This is also just discussion. So even though you're a guest, we just all yap together.
Yeah.
That's usually how it works. But you'll be the main man we point to and punt to.
Oh, boy.
Because you're here with all the wisdom.
Yeah, this really just came, from how I understand it and see it and know it. We would have these, and we'd have really good conversations in the office about, current events or things that have happened. And I think when we sit around and realize that we're of like mind, right? Outside of the political arena and whatnot. So we sit there and we're like, finally, somebody that gets it after spending, Christmas with your extended family and you're sitting there like biting your tongue and those things, that we looked forward to able to get back and just feel fortified, lick the wounds, that and realize that other people understand and we're not the exception to the rule. And so those conversations, we realized that it'd be nice if other people, my wife, family, if you could hear other people and their take on it, you would understand the depth of it. So that's kind of started recording those conversations. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's really casual, as you can tell.
It is very casual. Well, guys, welcome back to
Dramatic Catholics.
We're excited to have 2 guests on today.
Yep.
We have Mr. David Portugal.
Good morning.
We should just promote you. You're more than just a special guest.
I thank you.
You've been on a lot.
Yeah.
Of episodes.
How about a different title? How about I don't know.
Circle back. I don't know what else you'd call you.
I've been called a lot of things.
A super guest.
A super guest?
You're a super guest.
Could I be a guest host?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, you've been promoted. And then we have a special guest.
Oh, I get a double special.
Yeah. You have a special place in my heart. That's why.
Did you say a special face in your heart?
No, a special place in my heart. I'm still learning how to talk without my Invisalign. I still have
which worked really well, by the way.
Thank you.
Your teeth look
I'm
great.
glad it cost me $2,000 to fix one tooth.
That's dedication.
Anyway, this is about me. Welcome, Mr. Rob Curtis.
Hey.
Hello.
I heard rob the bank.
Rob the bank.
The bank.
Welcome.
The nickname I will never get away from.
No.
Never. I love that.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Matt Gonzalez.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You can't come to SJV without leaving with a nickname.
Yep.
Good or bad.
Right, chocolate?
Yeah. Exactly. Welcome.
How's it go?
We're so excited to have. We're in your parts of the woods. We're in the East Valley,
Yes.
East Side.
All the way at Corpus Christi.
Right up against South Mountain.
Literally.
Sometimes the Chuck Wallace come to the window, so
That's crazy. That is crazy.
I keep it close so they don't come in because then it's just chaos.
Oh, that's crazy. Well, Rob, I'm gonna read your bio, but I have a personal in with Rob. You've been around, you have a relationship. You have a relationship with David. You've been at St. John Vianney. You were the liturgist, right? At some point.
A pastoral minister.
Oh, I
did a lot
apologize.
more
Was
than
that
just
the
liturgy.
subject?
Wow.
I didn't mean.
Sorry, Rob.
I should have just read your bio. It's because I guess I don't know you that well. I only know you personally from Benedictine.
This is gonna be a long podcast.
I know. Benedictine University.
Yes.
So he was my, you were my teacher, my professor.
He was more than a teacher.
He was more than my, you were though. Yeah, he was my campus minister. You were my boss for a little bit because I was his intern actually in the campus ministry office. So I did whatever Rob told me to do. Yeah. You know, Rob actually told me to start a podcast.
Did he really?
He did a long time ago. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
It didn't get up and running.
Not
But,
a Benedictine.
but you
no.
saw it. You saw it first.
Yes.
Wow.
So this is all thanks to you. Thanks for planting the seed.
2 years later?
Shoot.
I've never
Like
heard you mention
3
that.
or 4 years.
4
later.
years.
Yeah,
You
because I was
should've-
probably a sophomore in college
Yeah.
when you mentioned it.
That's when podcasts weren't even like
Well, maybe
huge
even more
back
because
then.
didn't you graduate during COVID?
Yeah, 2021.
So that's like 5 years.
Wow. You're old.
I know. I'm all thinking I am old. Anyway, welcome. Yeah, but your bio, I will read it.
Official bio.
Your official. Anyway, a native Arizonan, born and raised in nearby Chandler. Oh, I didn't know this. Okay. Rob is excited to joyfully serve Corpus Christi Parish as Director of Faith Formation and Family Ministry. Beautiful. A lifelong Catholic, Rob has spent his entire life serving the church in youth ministry, campus ministry, adult faith formation, and education at parishes and schools in the Diocese of Phoenix and Salt Lake City. I forgot about that.
Yes.
We just were there like a couple years ago for Seek. And most recently, like I mentioned, you served at Benedictine, and you hold master's degrees in pastoral theology, secondary education, and educational leadership. Wow. You got it all.
Yep.
The jack of all trades. But welcome. We're so excited to have you. No, we thought about, I know we've been trying to have a podcast with you for, forever.
Yeah. Scheduling challenges.
Super, and you're, super far out here, so.
And he has
it's
a big, beautiful family.
Yeah.
Do.
That
3
you do.
children, a wife,
Oh.
a dog that's barely hanging on.
Oh.
Aren't we all?
She's like 14 plus and
Oh, dang.
just kind of lays around. And
That's tragic.
You should get her some hip and joint, if you haven't, vitamins or supplements. Just so you know.
we're
going
kind of
through
at the
this,
stage where we let her eat whatever she wants.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
hamburger, cheesburgers, mac and cheese, just,
Yeah, let her
And
live it
John,
up.
she's like 85 and,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do?
Kind
What are you gonna do? I don't know. But we thought, what better topic to invite you for than just talk about scandal and stuff.
Wow.
Not to make light of it, but no, you
Scandal
came,
within the church.
scandal within the church, and that comes from a lot of people will obviously think of one thing, but there's so many ways where we deal with scandal within the church, not just clergy, the laity. We just from the very minute scandalous things that we encounter, we had helpful conversations earlier about just somebody just had a bad encounter at church, and they just didn't come back because of this one person said something or they weren't welcomed or things like that. So scandal in terms of all the things, just to touch on that today. Yeah, thought you'd be good.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
I think it's important to keep in mind for us and for those listening that the church is communal, right? It is it is not it is a family, and so in that way, I think there are moments that we probably don't call scandalous in our own family, but there's certain gatherings and certain people that say things or do things, and maybe intentionally or unintentionally, that hurt.
Yeah.
And they cause gossip and those things, and you can choose to participate or believe or those things. And I think when we use that, for me, when I look at who we are as the church, I think it's important to keep in mind how I understand it, that there's really two significant ways that scandal takes place, right? It's either things that happen or the perception that things have happened or are happening. And so I think scandal within the church, right? There's abuse, hypocrisy, cover-ups, misuse of authority. But scandal is also caused by our words. More recent is current social media posts.
Yeah.
Right? That I don't know that are forefathers would have ever saw that as
as part of
it.
the.
Yeah.
You're gonna find that in the catechism, like
how to handle social media.
Social media.
And then this public witness and how we partake in it. Either are we a part of the solution or are we a part of the problem? Does it continue with us?
Exactly. Yeah.
I read this line, and I have it in my notes. It says that the church doesn't just suffer scandal; we sometimes participate in it.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, the church doesn't just suffer scandal; we sometimes participate in it.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, we want to kind of tread lightly and like in talking about things like that. But before we do like to invite our guests to lead us in opening prayer.
Yeah, certainly.
Would you be down for that?
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Gracious and loving God, we give you praise and thanksgiving for this opportunity to come together to share a communal experience and to open our hearts to your wisdom as we navigate a better understanding of how to see and understand scandal in the church, but also how to respond to it in light of your gospel, your good news. Lord, we carry with us all the prayers that are on our hearts, all the prayers that people have asked us to pray for them, and we lift those up to you. We trust in your wisdom and your mercy to answer them in the way that you know is best. We love you, Lord. We want to love you more and more. Just be with us here today as we carry through this conversation for your glory and for the good of your church. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
I have to say, as Rob began to pray, you kind of put him on the spot, but I mean, he's a prayed up man. But a memory just popped up real quick in my head. I got asked to lead prayer at a staff meeting once when Rob was at St. John Vianney. You probably don't remember this, Rob, but I love you for it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, Father leaned over and said, "David, would you mind leading us in prayer?" And I was like, oh, "Okay." So I just went, right? And in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And I opened with, and I remember this because Rob helped me afterwards. I said, "Father God, we thank you for the opportunity," and whatever, and it went out. And so prayed, and then we left. And so we're walking out the back door, and he goes, and I don't remember how he brought it up, but then he just basically said, "Hey, thank you for praying, but the Father God, it's very Protestant of you." Do you remember this, Rob?
No, but I've had that conversation with more than a few people.
It must be a pet peeve.
He's like, slow down, track.
I'm sorry, okay? I really came into my faith at 13 when my mom had left the church.
I thought of one
And we went
person.
to a small Bible church, and I learned how to pray spontaneously. The Catholic Church did not teach me how to pray spontaneously.
I thought of a few people too.
Yeah.
Say Father God.
Yeah.
Father God. Yeah.
My uncle says that he's Baptist, I think.
Yeah.
So, or I don't know what he's Protestant, and that's how he prays.
But that's how I knew.
We pray together.
He was my brother.
Aww,
the way,
he could be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I thank you for that. And I also, I'm still upset at you because my daughter does not use the missalette.
Oh, shoot.
Because to this day, she's
Scandal.
31.
Scandal.
Yeah. I leaned over, right? I raised this girl. And I leaned over. She was like 8th grade. And we passed the missalettes down at our church, right? We pick them up at the front, the vestibule, and then we pass them out. And then she looks at my wife. She goes like, "No, I don't need one." So my wife passes it back to me. I'm like, "Give her the missalette." And then my wife tries to give it to her. She was like, "No." So after Mass, I'm like, "Why didn't you want the missalette to follow along with the readings?" And she says, "Because Mr. Curtis," who was her 8th grade teacher at the time, religion teacher, Mr. Curtis says that we don't have to read the scriptures when we go to Mass. We can just sit and marinate in them.
Ooh.
I was like, "Oh, Mr. Curtis told you that." I will have a conversation with Mr. Curtis.
Full, active, conscious participation. Just take it in.
So thank you.
And I still stand on that.
Stand on that.
So he's like, whatever you have to say.
Scandal. Scandalous. Oh man.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I just thought we should cover how the Catechism of the Catholic Church looks at scandal, because I think scandal can be like a lot of things, but more of like what the church actually teaches of what scandal is. I think that will help better guide our conversation, and just for like you listeners too, to just know like this is not what we perceive scandal. This is what the church actually teaches what scandal is. So in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, in paragraph 2284, it starts with the respect for the dignity of persons, right? I think scandal just always comes down to like, do we see the dignity from the person in front of us? I think everything just roots from dignity in itself. But respect for the souls of others. Scandal is an attitude or behavior which leads another to do evil. The person who gives scandal becomes his neighbor's tempter. He damages virtue and integrity. He may even draw his brother into spiritual death. Scandal is a grave offense if by deed or omission another is deliberately led into a grave offense. Yeah.
It's definitely not, we're not called just to call it out, but not to participate.
Yep.
Exactly. We forget about that part, right?
Yeah.
We're good at calling it out, but when it comes to our own actions, we're like, what?
Yeah. We're like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to sit this one out.
But no, that's so real though, because I think we all struggle, and just I guess it comes like to prudence of like how we speak about things, and even how our actions perceive us. So I think this is going to be a good conversation, and just having the clarity of scandal and how we approach it, how we respond to it, whether we're the one causing it or we see others causing scandal, and how can we respond to them in a Christ-like way that isn't out of, which can be justfully, it can get into, we'll get into it.
Well, and in terms of clarity, I just want to add that, it's one of the things that I love to share with people when we teach from the Catechism is we have to see what the church completely says on a particular issue. And it's important to note that on that, scandal, it actually continues. And in the next paragraph, it says, scandal takes on a particular gravity by reason of the authority of those who cause it, or the weakens of those who are scandalized. So, we have to be very careful, too, that if somebody is in a position of authority and causes scandal, it takes on even higher gravity to those who are affected by it. And that's something that as a church, especially over the last 30 years, we've had to deal with in terms of the sexual abuse scandal, in terms of various financial scandals that this day and age with media and especially with social media, things get shared really quickly. And those who carry certain offices in the church, whether it be a pastor, a bishop, a lay employee of the church, aren't always thinking that too. And that while they might find their Facebook or their, whatever is private to them as a personal person, when they say it, they still carry with it the weight of whatever their office is.
It's like scandal does have more gravity to those who are in charge rather than a lay person. I don't know if that's like, it's like a priest doing something would be like, whoa,
I mean, I think you even see
like
it
bishop or
on a level, like even talking about like there's the laity, like your normal day-to-day parishioner.
Yeah.
And then you have also people like us who work in the church.
Yeah, workers of the church, yeah.
And I think we can also create a scandal within like our daily lives and what we're doing, Esme and I are like young adults, right? And so like we go out together, like we do things that like, I think it's funny, like when you'll, like we're probably the church people in our families, and like, oh, like you'll have like a drink, like, I can have wine. Like, yes, I can have a margarita, but they're like, oh, you can drink? Like
I hate the holidays. Because it's always brought up like, oh my gosh, you got to go to confession now.
Yeah.
You got to tell the priest what you just said. I'm like, I could have an opinion too. But again, it comes back like, I'm not constantly thinking that because I am a worker of the church and they know that I work for the church. I do, in a way, have to be filtered in what I say, because maybe they're just not there yet to understand what the church teaches, like having that conversation.
Yeah.
So it's like, when you're ready, we'll talk. But for right now, you're just not ready to receive it.
So let me ask you this, Rob. You've been around the block, right? To say the least.
Have you really? He's a west, east.
Yeah, you've been in ministry for a long time. I'm sure you've seen your fair share of, you don't have to share like obviously specifics, but what kind of has been your relationship in dealing with things that you've seen like Scandal like evolve, like especially in the realm of like their technology, like part of your life where it wasn't like as prominent, like social media wasn't as prominent, and how you've seen that kind of evolve now when we're dealing with Scandal?
Well, I think a good place to start is I've been how do I say this in a sensitive way? I've been around Scandal in the church since my teen years.
Yeah.
This is a well-known story, so I'm not like sharing anything that's not appropriate, but my pastor growing up was an icon in youth ministry. He was a larger than life figure. He had founded a youth ministry organization that went international. He was asked to speak all over the world, EWTN. I mean, he was even, recognized by the Pope. I mean, big deal. And that kind of all came crashing down in the early 2000s at the height of the sexual abuse scandal in our church, where he was accused of some inappropriate conduct. And, it's interesting for many people in the parish at the time, it was a huge break. It really shocked them and everything. But for some of us that had been attuned, it was not out of left field. There were other issues that had cropped up within the youth ministry program in that parish, and other things that had given people pause to say, what's going on here? Is there something underneath the surface? In those days, and David probably remembers this too, like every day the news was bringing out another sexual abuse scandal that had been uncovered in another part of the church around the United States. It was just the punches kept coming. So in a way, we were kind of numb to that already, and it was like, well, let's let the legal system figure this out. But the real scandal came when that particular pastor resigned as the pastor of the parish, and then later left to start his own church.
Yeah,
and it became something that he just led people away from the church by his actions. And many people that I knew, that I had grown up knowing, I'd been in the parish since 1984. And so this time, we're talking 18 years, almost 20 years, that I had known some of these people, to just watch them walk away and leave the church and not even recognizing what they were leaving. He was eventually excommunicated for his actions, and then later laicized as a priest for convictions of sexual abuse. But to me, it was kind of that recognition that we are given a choice when we are scandalized. It's either to leave the church, and there were many that left the church that didn't follow him to his startup church, but rather just left practicing in general. We're given that choice, or we're given a choice to pick up the pieces and continue. And so from an early age, in my early 20s, I came to realize that our faith is first and foremost in Jesus Christ. And if we can love the church because Christ loves the church, but we need to love Christ first and recognize that the church is both an institution in the body of Christ, but more so the body of Christ. And so when the institution gives us pause, we look to Christ. And I've been asked this question by many people over the years. How is it that I'm still Catholic after everything that we went through as a church? How is it that I can continue to serve? And I think about a lot of the priests. I won't name them, but we have really good priests in this diocese who actually entered seminary during that time.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was a real question, is, they were getting harassed by, what, you want to go touch children, and is this why you want to be a priest? And no, they wanted to serve God, and they've done it faithfully for so many years. And we can think of those priests who were ordained in our diocese in about, think like 2010, 2011, that kind of crop of priests, they would have gone through seminary during all of this. And they revealed to us that, it's Christ's church, and we put our faith in Christ, and we put our faith in the sacramental grace that he gives us, and that helps us to navigate the various scandals in our church. So I've had that experience, and I had to kind of grow up really fast. And that shaped me as a lay ecclesial minister, because it taught me early on that I wanted to make sure that I was never the cause of leading somebody away from Christ. The last thing that I want is to get up there to heaven and God go, yeah, here's the list.
Yeah.
Not the list.
I want the list that says, here's all the people you helped bring to the Lord. And that affects everything that I do. The way that I try to live my life as a parent, just as a citizen, when I go to a baseball game, because I never know who's watching me and who sees me. And if they can see me being genuine, then that has a better effect than, if I start screaming at the Dodgers for being,
as you're sharing that, Rob, your words are bringing just like picture moments to me of those instances and others. I think it's important to speak of the spiritual betrayal that takes place when we in the church, as we spoke, like the higher up you go, the more responsibility you carry, that we carry, and people, not only put priests in the clergy on pedestals, they put us on pedestals.
Yeah.
So when we serve at the church, and we want to say no, like I'm just an average guy, but look at the good that I do. I once showed up at a Chuck E. Cheese party for when I was the DRE. One of the RE families invited me to go to one of the Chuck E. Cheese birthday, and I went. Lamar and I, my wife and I went. And when they called the mom to the front for security, because we had to check in with child, and we were here for whatnot, she was just like, oh my gosh, you came, and I was like, what? And it was like almost like this celebrity thing. She goes like, no, you're like from the church. I'm like, well, we're all from the church. Like, she goes, no, you don't understand. She goes, like, you being here. She goes, oh my gosh, let me introduce you to my family. And I'll never forget that moment, because I thought, like, that's the Lord, because of the Lord, he's placed you in a place that is special in people's lives, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that when they hold us as this guiding light, as shepherds, right? To lead others in the life of hope, the life of victory, salvation that is found in the Lord. And then when we fail and we want to just say, well, I'm human, I'm a sinner too. It's just different. It hits different, whether, you're coaching volleyball or, a sport or something like that. When you put yourself in a place of leadership, there's this spiritual hope that is placed upon you, whether you want it or not. And that spiritual betrayal by the church can be so devastating. And I think that's just something important to keep in mind, that it's all of us. And when we do, we become callous to it, I think, or we just kind of take it par for the course. But it's just a reminder this morning, coming out of the morning mass, a parishioner said, I got tired of leaving when different priests came to my church. He says, my church. Yeah. He says, and I'll never leave because of the Eucharist. He says, I have a right to come to my church and receive the Lord in the Eucharist. I was like, wow.
Yeah, spoken like somebody who's been there for a long time.
Yeah. Joseph's been there a long, long time.
Yeah. What would you say, Rob? Like, speaking on people who've experienced like hurt in the church, like, yes, we should be focused on like Jesus. I had read something a friend had sent me in preparation for this episode, like just talking about the sexual abuse scandal, but like all the things that come along with that. One of the quotes that I read, like, they may not have lost faith like in Jesus, but they certainly have lost trust in Jesus. So what are kind of some things that you would say to somebody who's experience like a small like trauma, I guess you would say. I don't want to minimize anybody's experience at all. But there are levels to like, yes, like have you been in experience like abuse, or have you encountered like all the way to have you encountered a mean church lady who, you know, like kind of like
Those don't exist,
who, like,
right?
who just ruined your experience of
who
church.
ruined your experience, when you called them on the phone, you know.
Yeah. And I've had these discussions, and coming here to this parish, I've been working in OCIA, which is something that I had not ever had the opportunity to do before, and so I'm getting to sit with people who are either coming back to the church for a variety of reasons, and oftentimes those are because they encountered somebody who pushed them away, but at this point in their life they realize they really want Christ and I want to come back. To others who grew up in very evangelical homes that are like Catholics are absolutely evil and everything they say is evil, and so there's and have been traumatized by their evangelical upbringing, to put it bluntly. And so I've gained a lot of wisdom in sitting and listening to these conversations over the last few years of walking this journey and accompanying these people. I would say, when I come across somebody who's been hurt by the church, whether it's people in it or whether it's just the public perception of the church, is, we have to have that conversation about who we are as human persons, that the reality is we are fallen persons, that we are tempted to sin, that we suffer from our human weaknesses, and the church is entrusted to those of us who are broken and weak and sinful and all of that, because the grace that comes from Christ is all the more. And so oftentimes, back up a little bit, when I was first starting out in ministry, I was working at a parish in Glendale, and we would do our youth events in the evening, and there was a little lady there who kind of ran the church at night. She was the nighttime receptionist, worked until 9 o'clock, which 43rd in Maryland, where this parish was, it was like, it's kind of rough neighborhoods. She stood maybe about 5 foot, and she was like maybe like 80 pounds sopping wet, just tough as nails. And I remember I would sit there and have conversations with her and learn from her when I was younger. Whether I wanted to or not, she would tell me, what I needed to learn. And one of the things she shared with me is that every time that phone rings and she answers it, she's Christ to that person on the other line. That she may be the only encounter they ever have with the church. Mm-hmm. And that has stayed with me for 25 years. That's something that, has shaped the work that I do and the way that I encounter people. Because we are fallen. We are sinful. We are broken. But we stand in for Christ. And it goes both ways. Like for a lay minister, we have to remember that, and we have to let that govern us. But for those who are hurt by the church, we have to remind them that ultimately their faith is in Jesus, and their trust should be placed in Jesus. And if somebody in the church hurts you, then you move on to another place. Like the church is big enough to have a place for them. And I also have told people, don't hesitate to confront. Like we think that we have to be nice in church, and I don't know why. I don't know why we think we have to be nice to people that hurt us. I really don't. Jesus, when he saw sin happening in the temple, he overturned tables. Yeah, right?
True. It's my favorite Jesus.
When it's a just action, I don't know why we can't call people out.
Exactly.
You are treating me badly. You're not being Christ to me. Mm-hmm. And that's true. We may not know the weight of what somebody's dealing with, but it doesn't take a lot to be gentle and kind to others. And so I try to help people see, like, there's a difference between your faith in the person of Jesus Christ and then having to deal with the people within the church. And we really should never, it's going to sound bad, like I'm saying this, but we really should never put our total faith in people.
Yeah.
We should trust that they're leading us to Christ, but it's ultimately about building our relationship with Christ. I have on my wall in my office this quote from G.K. Chesterton that says, "Let your religion be less of a theory and more of a love affair."
Oh.
And it's, religion is a relationship. And when we come to Christ, we come through the church because that's the vessel that he called us to come through. But it's about learning to love him, and then by loving him, loving others.
Yeah.
And love does not always mean that we have to be nice. Love does not always mean that we have to be gentle. Love means that we have to be there in truth and goodness and justice. And sometimes that means carrying a cross. Sometimes that means sitting with people who struggle to know what's right from wrong and accompanying them to help them to see the truth. And when we try to put our faith in a person and not Jesus Christ, then that's going to be, we're going to find ourselves hurt because we ultimately will let others down.
Right.
It's just kind of human nature.
Yeah. I think it's important to realize that the love affair, in that quote, it's what people desire when they come to the church, when they come to the parish. They meet us and they think like, gosh, I wish I had what you have, and I take a look at the marriage that Lamar and I have, approaching 40 years soon. And when we get asked to participate in presentation of the rosary or the Bible in many weddings for young adults, Lamar once said, she says, well, it doesn't really matter. They want you because they have a relationship with you. And I'm like, no, they want our marriage.
Yeah.
Like I remember Miguel and Selena, like Miguel just making a point of like, you don't get it. Like, my parents are married, but I want what you and Lamar have. And I'm like, well, there's a whole lot of, it's, but they see the hope in this relationship with the Lord. That's what people desire. They want to know where our hope comes from. They see we're not perfect. And so they want to know where this hope comes from. And when we lead them to Him, it's where Father Drew Garrett used to say that we have to make sure that as ministers of the church, right, being in the church and leading, that we lay down our lives that others can cross over these trials and tribulations and lead them to the cross. But sometimes people get stuck on us, but we have to get them off us and to Him. And I would say this: if for those who are listening, and if you've suffered hurt or pain by anyone in the church, like that pain is real. Yet we're talking, and I know we've gotten to a point of seriousness, and as we should. But I just want to make sure that that we acknowledge that hurt and that pain, and apologize on behalf of us, of all of us. That's just all of us, and us talking about it and making light of certain things, or that it doesn't come off that we don't care. We do care. That's why we're talking about it. But to Rob's point, like, it's okay to confront, and you should, right? We have to say something so that we're not being groomed.
Yeah.
To accept unacceptable behavior, even if it is the church lady who doesn't answer the way that this lady that you shared of. Well, if you call and the lady who answers, or the person who answers the phone is rude, bring it up to the pastor after Mass on Sunday. Like, say something, because you might be okay and still be there, but that might turn away potential other families, right? Other families that might be coming to your parish or to the church, or asking a question about receiving sacraments and so forth.
Yeah. And I think that also leads to a point that we don't talk about as much anymore in our circles and things like that. And that's the idea of forgiveness. We talk a lot about being forgiven, but not about forgiving.
Yeah.
And I think it was Bishop Barron that said, forgiveness, takes two, right? You come your place, I come my place, we forgive each other. But when you can't do that, then I must go the rest of the way. I must do what you can't. I must carry that load. And that's what it means to truly forgive. Mm-hmm. And there are times when we get hurt that we have to put ourselves in the place of the other who did the hurting to us and say, can I forgive them? Can I understand, or try to understand, what might have caused that, and seek to forgive them no matter what? And I know, it's like a range, right? If there's an abuse that happens or something that's really, really terrible, then yes, the forgiveness is going to be harder to come by. But if it's just somebody being mean to you in church. Maybe it's somebody telling you, shh your child in mass or something like that, which offends people a lot. Those kind of things, we have to ask ourselves, can I forgive that person and still come back to the church? And that's one of the hardest things to do, is to look at somebody that's hurt you, no matter what the level is, and say, I forgive you. And not, I'm just saying it so that you feel better and we can move on and forget about this, but I truly forgive you, and I'm moving forward in this relationship, in this communal relationship that we have. And I think we need a lot more of that. I think we need to remember that it takes humility, it takes courage to live the Christian life, and that doesn't just mean standing up for what's right and true and so forth, but it also means being a person of forgiveness. When I was in high school going through confirmation, I remember I had this incident where my confirmation teacher was teaching us about the Lord's Prayer, and we got to the point in the prayer where it says, "And forgive us, as we forgive those." And she said, "And if you're not ready to forgive, then don't say that part of the prayer, because you'll be lying to Jesus," or something like that. And I remember standing up and confronting her on that and said, "No, Jesus taught us to pray because he knew we didn't know what to do. And if we aren't willing to forgive, then we need to pray that all the more, right? We need to pray that all the more so that we know that if I'm feeling this forgiveness and this mercy from Jesus, then I need to do the same. I need to go out and be that way to others."
She tried to hit you with that Catholic guilt.
She threw me out of class that day.
But I really appreciate how you bring up humility, because that's the word that was popping up in my mind as I'm listening. Just humility. Like today for youth group, I'm talking about vices and virtues, and Delila was like, "Oh, well, just like categorize pride. Like pride is the root of all sin, right? Like because my plan is better than yours, Lord, or like my will is better." And what it comes down is like humbling ourselves to know, like, yeah, we're all sinners, we're not perfect, but forgiveness goes a long way, and it's really hard when we're not rooted in the teachings of Christ, right? We look at Christ and we're like, you gave us the best forgiveness ever. And sometimes I just look at that cross and I'm like, but I don't have it in me.
Not today.
Yeah, but humility calls us to do that. Like Jesus was so humble to get crucified.
Yeah.
Like, and I can't forgive, and it's a work in progress. Like I'm not sitting here saying, oh yeah, it's so easy to forgive. Like no, as I'm being convicted in my heart, just like, okay, it's a reminder. But I just wanted to preface like humility. Maybe we should look at it more of a humble heart than a place of hurt. And sometimes the hurt can be justified, right? Like things happen and we can sit with it. But also when it comes to a point of dwelling, where it changes our heart, but not in a good way, that's where we also have to reflect of, how do I want to approach this? Am I still going to be like this? Am I still going to feel this way? Or how can I feel in this moment? Like, how can I invite God into it instead of trying to seek more out of it than it needs to be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you're talking about like humility, and I think of like just, it's so hard because there's so many people that, I mean, I would say like all of us around this table, like we've had a moment where we've had to make our faith our own. We've had to mature above like a third grade or whenever you received your Holy Communion confirmation. Like there comes a point where you have to mature. And it's the same thing as in a relationship. I would say like it's different for me, like dating in high school than it is like dating as an adult. Like there's different things I'm bringing forward to my relationship. There's different challenges that come up in a relationship, and it's no different than my relationship with Jesus. And I think what's hard is like growing up, and like if you're growing up Catholic or things like that, there's a certain point where there's a shift that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to realize like this relationship that I have like with the church and with Christ isn't always going to be like rainbows and butterflies that people paint it. And the reality is that we're called to pick, like Jesus says it so many times, like pick up your cross, follow me. Yeah. And in the instant, like you don't think about it. Like people drop their nets just to go. They didn't ask questions. They didn't say bye to their families. Like They went. And that's so hard for us to wrap our head around. And I think that's where we can get like hurt and like get scared to trust Jesus, to trust the church. But if we look at like what you're saying, like that's what we're all pointing to, like what's the model of forgiveness? What's the model and mode of how we maneuver scandal and this life that's difficult, is looking at the cross. And it's like, no, like what did Jesus do when like he had to forgive them before they even knew what they were sorry for. He says, forgive them for they know not what they do. And that's the model for us. Like what you're saying, Rob, is like, that's what we must do when they're not going to, that person's not going to apologize. And I had went to like a healing retreat with Sister Miriam, and she had said something, and I realized like for myself that I have issues. Like nobody really does teach you how do you forgive somebody, like the forgiving. And she was like, a lot of people get mixed up with forgiveness, in that forgiving someone means you're letting somebody off the hook. She goes, and if that's your idea of forgiveness, she's like, you should probably reassess. And I was like, wow. And that's what a lot of my hurt comes from. Like, I don't like to forgive people because it just feels like I'm letting you off the hook. Like, you didn't get yours. You didn't get your justice. It's like, that's, where does that, then that's where humility comes in.
Yeah. And it's really hard to think that way, to let that be your first instinct. But again, when we're like looking at Christ and letting him lead us, I think that could be a little easier to practice, right? Like these are practice virtues that we're doing and deciding daily.
Well, the sacraments invite us into this practice, right? It's God's grace poured out. And as you're talking about forgiveness, Rob, and humility, Esme, I mean, that the thought that keeps popping up right now in my head is that takes place in the confessional, right? In the sacrament of reconciliation. It's, for me, and I'm going to assume for a lot of us, it's the most humiliating place, right? It's where you have to go and just like, I don't say you have to, but you get to really humble yourself and pour out the fact that you have fallen short, and to receive the words of absolution. Just watching teenagers receive the sacrament of reconciliation for the first time has been and probably will always be one of my favorite parts of leading ministry. I love that day, especially for the teens, because you see them come out like walking, like almost high stepping, like you can just see the load, because they get it. Maybe third and fourth graders are like, Father Paul used to say it's like being pelted with popcorn. Yeah. But for our young people and for ourselves, I mean, there's just a lot that is left in that conversation, in those moments of God's grace being poured out, his mercy, his love, his forgiveness, and where that forgiveness is modeled for us, Rob, as you speak of it. But even then, it's like in order to receive that forgiveness, we first have to admit and to what God already knows, and then the act of contrition is first an apology and then a promise. With your help, Lord, I promise to avoid this and whatever leads me to these moments. And so for those who are listening, if you haven't been, is another reminder, even for myself. Father Matthew over at St. Clair's on Sunday, he's new to the parish, newer, 6 months, I think. And he said that somebody asked him, what's your favorite part of St. Clair's so far? Like, what's your favorite area is it the rectory, the beautiful church? And he said, my favorite part is that little room. And he pointed over to the confessional. He said, I love that little room. He says, it's not decorated. He said, but I love it because of the conversations that happen in there, the tears that are poured out of joy, of hurt, of hope. He said, that's my favorite room. So the sacraments, right? The Lord hasn't forgotten us, and he invites us over and over again to receive that and to practice that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the last thing I would say on that is, we're talking about wounds and being wounded. And I think when we enter in the part of that maturing process and like entering deeper into our relationship with our faith, we are going to be prone. Like it's a vulnerable place to be. It's like any other relationship. The deeper you go into, you know, like intimacy with somebody, like you feel very vulnerable and open. And again, like that's how Jesus is laid on the cross. And we have to be okay and open to the fact that we might be wounded. And sometimes that'll come in the form of being hurt by, I don't know, maybe a member of the clergy. Maybe it's somebody sitting next to you in the pew.
A worker of the church. A
worker of the church. That, yeah, it does like come with its own, I mean, it sucks. I don't know, like how other way to say it. Like, yes, it sucks.
It does suck.
But it also is part of like relationship, and it's an invitation to forgiveness and going deeper into that relationship.
Yeah. And also say on that, you know, when we talk about forgiveness, we also can change our approach too. You know, just because we forgive somebody, it doesn't mean that person's going to be transformed by our forgiveness,
sure.
Right? They may continue they may continue to be the pain in the butt that they always were. And so we also have to be aware that, like I said earlier, the church is really big, and maybe I go do something else or go somewhere else. There's no shame in leaving your parish if the pastor is going to be somebody that just is going to continue to treat you badly or treat others badly. But don't leave the church, right? The church is not your parish. The church is a larger place. And I can say that, you know, I have a couple priests that have hurt me in a way in my years in ministry that I've forgiven them. I move past them. But if they're celebrating a mass and I can go somewhere else, I'm going to go somewhere else for mass. Now, if I can't, like if they're the only priest celebrating mass, I still realize that Jesus is present there and I'm going to go. But I make sure to kind of, you know, not put myself in a place where I might get angry again.
Yeah.
Right, where I can just go and continue to try to follow the forgiveness that I've already given and not get upset or angry again. And I think that's important to point out too, because what happens too often is people get hurt by someone in the church and leave the church as a whole.
Yeah,
it's like no, there's other places to go. Now, if you're listening out in rural USA and there's only one parish in your town, then I would say then maybe you need to work up the courage to have a conversation with somebody that's hurt you, because you can't really get away. And I've worked in a parish that we were the only parish in the entire town, parish for over 100 miles. So we had to learn to get along.
He's like at Salt Lake.
Yeah, we had to learn to get along and work through differences and things like that. And there's a beauty in that too. I mean, that makes you think of Peter and Paul. They didn't see eye to eye. But the early community was so small that they had to learn to get along, and they had to work through their differences. And what they gave us was a pathway for those kind of conversations, the openness and the prayer that came. We think about the Council of Jerusalem that happened in Acts of the Apostles, right? Those were a bunch of guys that disagreed with each other vehemently, and yet they found a path forward together. And so it's kind of a both and. Sometimes we have to move on to another part of the church, or sometimes we have to find it within ourselves to have those conversations and come to a new compromise together.
Yeah. St. Joseph's, the Maronite parish in Phoenix with Abuna, with Father Wissam. When I was helping him there for a few years, I was inspired and surprised to see people drive. Again, it's a small, predominantly Lebanese parish, but families would, not just one or two, but like multiple families would drive out from the San Diego area every Sunday to come to mass because they wanted to be with their people. Yeah. And they loved the pastor. So like that was inspiring. I'm like, wow, you're going to drive, like that's a whole day. That's 5 hours up, 5 hours back. Multiple families. And, but you're right. There's the Catholic Church where we are. She is so big, so vast that you can go somewhere else and still be fed. And just like you wouldn't, I tell my wife this all the time. We can't just travel because you want to go to this one priest. We were at mass and I was watching this lady in a walker on Sunday, she cut across from the side, came up the side aisle during communion, and cut across the front aisle with her walker. She folded her walker. Oh. And I'm like, what is she doing? And she's like in the third pew, walking across. And then I realized that she wanted to receive communion from the priest. And I'm like, all the things, all the catechetical thoughts. Like, I get it. Yeah. I get it, right? She wants to receive. And if she says something like, well, I want to receive the body of Christ from consecrated hands. Okay. But if she just says it just feels different or it feels better, then it's a disappointment, right? That there's so much more to learn and understand about the Eucharist that you just crossed over from the lay minister. And Lamar says, like, sometimes I just can't go to mass with you. Like, I'm like, well, it's just all these things, Yeah. And one quick story on finding elsewhere. I had a catechist when I was a DRE, an older woman, and she taught very differently than the rest of our catechist. And I had a lot of young people there, and she just couldn't. She couldn't find. She told me, she's like, there's like a vibe here, and I just don't like. I feel like I don't fit in. She tried 3 or 4 years, and I think you might know who she is, and I'll share it out off mic. And she said, so I think this is gonna be my last year. She was with me for like 3 years, and we were fine, And then I said, and in her exit interview, she turned in her books. I said, was it me? And then she said, she goes, I love you. She said, but I don't think the same way you do, or in the way that you allow things and parents. And I'm like, okay. During the summer, we changed pastors, and that pastor had asked me to help with baptism. So I went to the baptism group and met with them and the leaders. And so she walked in the door, and she looked and she says, oh, dear God, are you leading baptism now? And I was like, hi. I said, yeah, I am. She goes, I can't find any way to serve without you being there. She laughed.
That's crazy.
And she did it. But I understood, Yeah. But yeah, we're a family, and there's other places that you can go. You don't have to hide, but I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm always there.
Sorry, not sorry.
Oh man, that was good stuff. Let me ask you this question, because there's like a tension between, like, it's a hard place to navigate if you're like a practicing Catholic. You're like, and somebody brings up like that they've been hurt by the church, and you're stuck in a place where you want to hear the person out and you want to, minister to them, but you're also in a place where like that's like Holy Mother Church, you know what I mean? That's like, this is like the church that Jesus established. Like this is where, this is true.
You're not agreeing with truth.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you reconcile the two to both, like, not defend, but like, what do you do? Like when you're caught between like having to defend the church, but also like minister and listen to this person that's in front of you?
Well, it starts with listening, because you have to understand why they've been hurt and who hurt them. And that's where it kind of goes back to, where we started this conversation, that is it an individual within the church, or is it the church's teachings itself? Mm-hmm. Is it the institutions of the church? And that's where, if it's the institutions of the church, and I had this memory stays with me from years ago. It was actually when I was at St. John Vianney. And I had an older gentleman who wanted to sit with me because he was thinking about becoming Catholic. Mm-hmm. And he was in his 80s. His wife had recently passed away. And he just had issues with the church. He himself had gone to a Catholic university many years ago, and his wife was a faithful Catholic. And in her years when it wasn't able for her to drive anymore, he drove her and all this stuff. But he himself was not Catholic. And he had a lot of issues with the church. And I had to sit there and I shouldn't say had to, I wanted to sit there with him and listen to what his issues were. And he came at it with teachings in the church and all these things. But what it really boiled down to was the sexual abuse scandal, mm-hmm. that it was perceived as being institutional, which, in a lot of ways it was. Mm-hmm. And how do we speak to that is what he wanted to hear from me. And I just responded, I can't. It was wrong. Those in the church were wrong. And there's nothing that we can do to change the abuse that has happened. All we can do is to move forward and to make changes with what we do now so that we can reestablish that trust, and it's going to take a lot of time. And he was kind of shocked that that was the answer, because he thought that I would defend the church. But sometimes you can't defend the indefensible. And in those situations, you have to just acknowledge what was wrong and, in a way, try to find a new path forward. And before I speak to defending church teaching, let me carry that point a little bit forward. We've done that as a church. If you look in the secular media, people are shocked with the number of people that are coming to the Catholic faith now.
Yeah.
There's, Texas A&M just had a record number of students that were brought into the Catholic faith. Even our own Newman Center at ASU did. I saw one with Kansas State had over 90 that came in the church from Kansas State. I didn't even know there's 90 people that live in Manhattan, Kansas, but whatever. And OCIs all over the country are seeing just huge increases. Here at Corpus Christi, we're busting at the seams. We have 2 cohorts going at once, and we're busting at the seams with those who are coming into the church. And praise God, I mean, people are coming back to the faith. And people say, well, why? And a lot of what you'll hear is, well, the church is the only institution standing up for truth in this day and age with all these political issues and et cetera. And that's true to an extent. But I also think it's the way the church responded to the sexual abuse scandal. Is rather, we took our lumps, and we still do. And that's just a perception that we have to live with because of the failures of people in the church. But as an institution, we also moved forward. We instituted safe environment policies that transformed how we did ministry. We all became alert in our parishes. We admitted our wrongdoing. We've worked to continue to remove those who are abusive, but we've also transformed how we understand how we serve to one another, and we've tried to make our parishes and our schools and our hospitals and universities and all those as places where you can feel safe again. And we've had to rebuild that trust. Now, David and I have been doing this work for over 20 years, and I think, we'd be the first to tell you it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. There was a lot of challenges that we had to go through, a lot of anger that we had to listen to. And both anger on both sides, anger of those who were hurt and anger with those who were saying, well, why do I have to change the way I'm doing something when I'm not the bad guy? But we did that, and now the church stands in a place where people are coming back to it and saying, I want to build that trust again. And so I think when it's you have to listen, and you have to say, is it because somebody was hurt by individuals or by the institution of church? But church teaching is another one that's really interesting, because there are teachings of the church that hurt people.
Yeah. Because
the church stands for it. Our teaching on homosexual marriage, our teaching on transgenderism, our teachings on IVF and other sexual, contraceptives, those kind of things, that for ways that people are living their lives, they might be like, well, the church is wrong for doing this. The church hates gays. The church hates, all these things, right? Mm-hmm. And in those situations, again, it comes down to listening. But that is where we do have to defend. But defense doesn't come in justifying the church. Mm-hmm. It's not our job to sit there and say, well, this is why the church teaches what she does, or this is why the church teaches what she does. It's to listen to what that person really is wanting. Mm-hmm. What is really at the heart of their hurt, and then to sit with them and say, well, this is what the church teaches, but let me help you get there. Let me help you understand. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite authors, he's now a cardinal, Timothy Radcliffe, he said in his book, What's the Point of Being a Christian? That sometimes we have to sit with people while they struggle and wrestle with the truth in order to come to an understanding of what the church teaches. And I don't think we do that enough. Right. Yeah. Oftentimes we're great at apologetics, and some of our social media, I don't want to criticize people like Father Mike Schmitz and Bishop Barron. They do an incredible job of evangelizing, but sometimes the rubber meets the road. And we have to take all that great teaching that's out there, that wealth of teaching, and we have to sit with people that struggle, whether it's around the family dinner table, whether, it's, in those holidays that we spend, whether it's with coworkers, there are always going to be people that are going to say, well, why does the church teach that? And our first gut reaction can't be, well, because the church is the Church of Jesus Christ and we have to defend it. It is, but we have to get to why. And I think that's the challenge of dealing with scandal is it's so easy to jump on social media now and say, well, this is what the church teaches, and it's like, yes, but no. Yes, but no. Like you need to get to the full scope of what the church teaches, and we can't just throw it out there and say, well, you're wrong because such and such. I don't go on social media to jump on and argue and things like that.
Havoc.
And I know a lot of people that say, oh, you shouldn't read the comments because the comments just drive you crazy. But I do. I spend the time, and even though it infuriates me and I do want to respond sometimes, I read those comments because I want to see how people think.
Yeah.
I want to see what is the real struggles that are going on, because that's where they begin to really reveal the truth. And that's, once we get to the heart of that, then we can try to step in and help people move past the scandals they might see online, that they might see in the media, that they might see around, in their homes and in their workplaces.
Yeah. I think that too is listening. That's listening. And I think listening isn't agreement.
Yeah.
Listening is Christ-like. I mean, you can look at the Gospels and look at Christ encountering. He'd ask questions, right? Like, who touched me, right? And he already knew, right? The woman at the well, and he would just encounter us. And you're right. I mean, social media is what in my guesstimation is probably why the number one reason why we're seeing such a return to the church, because there has been it's the new TV, right? Everyone will scroll through their phone and follow certain people that are piquing their interest and desire. We all desire a relationship with the Lord. So when those things come up, the Father Mike Schmitz, the Bishop Barron, like, wow, nobody taught like that before, and so then we get to receive them at the parish level. But listening, you're right. When you already know, right? When you're armed with the truth of the gospel, you can sit. You don't have to argue or debate anyone. You can just listen, to your point, Rob, and find out, how can I bring you along the long way, the long road, and let me walk with you on that road to get here, because there is undisputable truth. This isn't subjective truth. It is the objective truth of love. And we sit in a subjective world, where we get to decide what's true, how I feel, what I think. And it's just a long game, right? We got to play the long game with our brothers and sisters, because they are living their lives too, and they're trying to figure it all out, to have these moments, Delila, that you talked about earlier, of like, you just have to have this moment where you come, like a come to God moment. And that's a real thing, where Mark Hart and Blessed Are the Bored in Spirit, in his book, he says that God's not necessarily concerned with our conversion. He desires our transformation. And it's these moments of conversion that we have throughout our life that are ultimately that ongoing transformation. And I think when we look at that, and we look at the hurt and the pain that's caused, because we enter into a relationship of conversation, we share what's our hurts and our pains with leaders of OCIA, and this is where I've been, and if they, it could be something as simple as having to cut someone off as they're sharing something because somebody else is waiting for me and I've got to go. Like, I'm so sorry, I've got to go, and that could just be it.
Yeah.
That it's just that one time I tried to be vulnerable, and you weren't there for me. Mm-hmm. Like, lay me back on the cross, like. Yeah. It's challenging. But like anything that's worth anything, and love it's worth it. It's it's worth the hurt, the pain, the sifting through the rubble, and I've become a very good person at a very good apologizer. I probably have apologized to anybody I've ever met because again, can be opinionated and off the cuff and no filter, whatever you want to call it. But that's just that's my way, and so I have to come back and apologize. I think those that don't apologize frequently don't practice it, so they don't even know how to get there. And it takes us all. It takes us to be givers and receivers.
There's a couple things I want to talk about. One being like, what role should, because I mean, like, we're talking about like, things that might be like heavy on people's hearts, right? And so at what point do you kind of call it out? Like this person who has, we've kind of alluded to it, but experience someone who has been hurt, whatever scale. Like when do you know to say something to somebody? Does that make sense?
On what end? Like somebody that has been hurt that you're listening to?
Yeah, to like... Or
somebody that's doing hurting that you're finally like, okay, that's it.
Whether it's like a priest or something that's hurt someone. Like when do you know, like being the person that is being hurt?
Okay.
Or even if it's like, do you know what I mean?
I was thinking, like, how do you bring up the conversation when you see someone causing scandal?
Or that too, yeah.
How do you have a conversation with them of like, I think you're creating scandal and I just want you to be aware so you can change your action. That's how I was perceiving your question.
Yeah, I was thinking about, there's literally so much you can talk about.
But I think we should talk about what do you do when you do see scandalous actions? Like, how do you respond?
Well, Scripture tells us, the idea of fraternal correction, that it's taking somebody aside quietly and saying, what you're teaching, what you're doing is not of Christ. Yeah. And that's an important place to start. Is too often we try to do it publicly.
Cancel culture.
Or on social media, replying in the public comments rather than sending a quiet DM to say, about right.
That's so crazy.
I feel like what you're saying here is kind of missing the boat. But I think it's important to do that first part on a private scale. I'm going to talk to you quietly and let you know.
Correct your neighbor in silent.
I think also you want to do it when you see it, like not like right that moment, but you don't want to let it fester and go on for weeks and say, oh yeah, several weeks ago you said this and that. But and I think in terms of like, depending on how the person's addressing it, like maybe as a teacher or as a priest or something, that they're saying something publicly, it's also going and saying, did you think about how you approach this? Like, is there another side coming? Is there another version? I don't know if that's making sense, but really it's wanting to, if you have a trust and a rapport with the person, it's taking them aside early on in the situation saying, I don't, think you should be saying that, or let me, what was going through your mind in saying that and all that. I think when you don't have that trust or that rapport with somebody, then you want to give it a little bit more time and kind of ponder and sit with and maybe talk with others like, well, why did Father say that during his homily? Or why did, what is he really trying to get at? I think as Catholics, we learned a lot about this during the papacy of Francis, because he would do those back of the plane interviews. And you'd get to work and and people like, can you believe the Pope said? It's like guys, first off, I have to see what was the context, what was the question that was asked. We have to sit with it for a little bit before we can kind of understand what was happening. And I think that happens like with a priest that gives a homily, or maybe a change in a parish. If we don't have that rapport there, we might have to sit with it a little bit to be like, what's happening here? Talk it over, discern, and then, we can write either a nice email or,
a nice
email, and to kind of, go through with that and share our concerns. Because then when they're done in charity, when the concern is offered in charity and with discernment, I think there's an openness on the other end to receive it. At least I know I do. When somebody just comes and says, Rob, you're wrong. I mean, I'm ready to fight back and be like, oh, am I? Let's get into this. Like, why do you think I'm wrong?
Bet you I'm not.
I
But when somebody says, hey, would you consider this? And I get an email later saying, you said this. It gives me a chance to kind of really think about it and ponder why they might have seen it from that perception and what I could do differently. I do try to start from a place. I'm not perfect at this, obviously, but I do try to start from a place that, what did I do to mess up here? What could I change? And so when I hear those, I really try to be receptive to that. But I'll be honest, there are times that I respond and say, thank you, Sarah, very much for your feedback. It was noted.
It was noted.
Yeah, that's real.
That is real. No, that's what I want to talk about too, is like this whole social media thing, because you were talking about that. That's what it reminded me of. I had posted, and it wasn't anything crazy that I posted. So I'm sorry if you're listening to this, but it's in the context of this conversation, it's fitting. They didn't like what I posted. All right.
Like, what'd you post?
Who's they?
They. No, I was like, I want to know what you post.
Which post? I'll look it up right now.
I posted it. It was silly. It was a silly little post. It had nothing to do with anything. It was just a trend. It was hopping on the trend. You know which one? I just recently posted it. Yeah.
You're too old to be following
which
trends.
one?
That's crazy. I work in youth ministry. I have to be youthful.
Wait, which one?
I just posted it.
Oh, the elderly one.
Yeah. And it was fitting because I'm old, so that's was the
funny.
joke. Yeah, it was funny.
There was a problem?
There was a problem. But this person kindly DM'd me instead of putting it in the comments, because it's like, I feel like we've gotten away from that. Like, we're all safe behind this screen, and I'm going to put it out for everybody to see when, like, you can have a normal conversation. And we had, like, a good conversation about it, like, privately. And then it was fine. It wasn't that serious. And it wasn't. It really wasn't that serious. But I feel like in the realm of like social media now, like there's like so many ways where like these new, and I'm not calling out like anyone in particular, but I've seen like people who have a platform and can cause scandal. And it's like, what you have no, like what is your like credentials for this, and somebody like you just saying that you're Catholic, that you're a practicing Catholic, you by saying that word alone can be really dangerous, because somebody like, say like a family member of mine is just scrolling through Instagram and sends me something, be like, oh, this girl. And I'm like, ooh, like what she's saying is actually not like true or like not legit, So I feel like there's like a new territory now where we encounter scandal on social media. Like we don't, I don't know. What do you say as you've seen the change,
I mean, we social media gives us the validation that we want, and that's what we look for on it. And so when somebody agrees with us, even if it's not correct, we're like, look at this, they support me. And if not, if they disagree with us, we're ready to fight, because there is no more need for credentials. And even those that do have the credentials, on social media, it's too often that they're sharing their own personal viewpoints and aren't really thinking through maybe what it is that they're saying, and they just kind of post out there. And so it seems, like a weak approach to say it this way, but you really have to take what is on social media as a grain of salt. It's a public sphere, and it's a place where we just have discourse and things like that and want to share what we want to share. And sometimes you just have to say, well, that's just so-and-so saying what they are, and I'm just going to ignore it. I'll tell a kind of funny story and a shout out to, one of our former SJV students. I don't even know what he's doing these days, but Renee Sanchez, Kia.
Know-it-all.
Another nickname.
Several years ago when I was still working at SJV, talking about trends and social media posts, I got on the Call Me Maybe boat.
I'm so weak. You love.
And I posted I think I did for a straight week, I posted different YouTube videos of people dancing to the Call Me Maybe.
Yeah.
And somebody posted on there, Rob, stop. I can't take this anymore. And Renee, God bless his heart, he posted, this is why you never look at Rob's Facebook. Just responded to that.
Wow.
And, sometimes we just have to do that. Sometimes, we have to just ignore what's there. And that it's hard for us to do that, because if we feel wounded, we want to strike back. We want to be justified. But social media is not the time or the place for that. Even the people that have thousands upon thousands of likes or retweets or whatever, sometimes we just have to say, I'm not going to go down that right? I'm not going to jump into that. And I don't think it's being weak. I don't think it's not being Christian by avoiding that. But it's we can't take that on ourselves. You know, we can't save the whole world. Jesus did. Mm-hmm. And all we can do is with our life point people back to Christ. And that's where what we do on social media is it pointing people back to Christ. And I'm not saying that you have to just constantly post religious posts, but posting your family and looking how, you know, and showing the joy that you have with your family, posting a joke here, as long as jokes are appropriate, right? You know, those are things that show us the joy in life, right? The good things in life. And when people look at our social media, and if they say, you know what, this person, you know, is a happy person and they're a joyful person and they're a loving person, then that reminds people that, okay, yeah, that, you know, Christian lifestyle that they're living extends to the totality of their life. We can't fight the whole world, but what we can do is take care of our own little place in it.
I think with even with the I'll just call it the unrest of what's taking place currently with the immigration issue and ICE and the second and most recent incident that caused the death of a young man. I'll call him a young man because I'm
older
twice.
than...
Yeah, I'm older. And I know personally, I like watched the video and I see what I see, and I'm not going to dive into my take on it, but I think what is shocking for a lot of people, and shocking for myself, is that two people can see the same thing and have totally different takes. That is, as an older generation, looking at social media, I sit there and I know you can't see me through this podcast, but my eyes are wide. I'm still wide open, like still shocked by, like, this is just, it's obvious, it's blatant in the way, in what happened and the encounter. But the frustrating part is I know that it comes from those in my social media followers or friends, whatever they're, you know, whatever social media we're talking about, is because the political ideology has taken over theology.
Yeah.
Theology is the study of God. Political ideology is I identify they're with certain politics. And I think like that is such a division. And I think when we look at social media, it's totally chaotic. They're definitely, it's a breeding ground for demonic thoughts, conspiracies, and how we then leave that post or that issue and then double down because I identify with this, and it now leads me to have to look at this issue. And when I look at the older, not so much the younger generation, but the older generation, they identify it's either blue or red. And so I'm going to buy everything or anything that's going to defend these other incidences. And I think when you look at social media and all the different generations that infiltrate, right? And I'll say infiltrate because your generation, your younger generation, leaves whenever we show up. Right?
Dead.
There was MySpace, and then MySpace wasn't cool, and the adults showed up and had a MySpace. Facebook was started, for college students. You had to have an EDU account to.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you couldn't just join Facebook. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't get like a Facebook till high school.
And now you're off Facebook.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not on Facebook.
Don't squint your face like, ugh.
Because I just don't know how to navigate it. It looks so complicated. I'm like, how do people not be able to like use Instagram, but you can use Facebook?
Because the threads are different. But anyway,
so it's too much. It's too much for me.
Yes, you do.
I don't like it.
You're
I
kind
like
of an old
using
soul.
Facebook.
But then you go into Instagram and Snapchat and all the right, and these are places. So you're saying like that's a great point. I don't know how to navigate. I don't know how you're having conversations there. And so how are you going to even evangelize or defend or listen if we don't even know how to navigate all these different platforms?
Exactly.
And but it is a huge part of the new evangelization, right? That JP2 speaks of. Like this is a place that has not yet been brought to Christ.
Yeah,
it is now. I mean,
Pope
we're seeing the big turn.
Thing. Yeah,
we're seeing that big turn, the big turnaround. And so when we have Pope Francis saying something like, "Who am I to judge?" I'm sitting like, when I read that, I'm like, "You're the Pope," because I know it's going to happen. Somebody's going to bring that up at OCIA, and but he just, it felt like we just got more work, and we want that work. We want people to come and have those questions, to be inspired, to return, and make the phone calls and do those things. But we're just people, and we don't always respond the right way. Sometimes we take our own personal. We're having a bad day, or we're depending on where we're at. It can be scandalous.
We can scandalize ourselves.
You can pop off in the comments of people you don't know. Oh, it felt so good, but then you go like, that wasn't the right thing to do.
That's crazy.
I have to go to confession for that.
Can I tell you something?
Go for it.
You want me to tell you something? I have another account that I like to argue with people.
Expose yourself.
I felt
what's that called? That's called
It's a spam.
No,
I have a spam.
They call it something else.
A burner account.
A burner account.
Oh, yeah.
I have a burner account, so you won't know my but I like. When I see something, I like to correct on
Online.
Yeah, online. Charitably, I like to correct. I don't say fight.
Are you the
Isn't
one in
that
the
a cause?
comments with no profile picture with numbers in your
No.
username?
No, it has a name, but I just
You
I
have
just
way
thought
too
I'd-
much time on your hands.
Instead of hey
I
there,
don't.
Delilah,
I've
it's
had it.
Delilah.
I've had it, but it turned into that.
Alter ego.
Do you have a profile pic on it?
Yeah.
You do?
Not of my face, but
You should probably take that.
I'm gonna stalk you now. Try
You
to
should probably
find
take that
it.
to the confessional and talk to a young priest.
to a young priest. I don't think
I'm
that's a
gonna
bad
stalk you right
thing.
now.
I don't know. Well,
It's-
I'm just challenging you to
I
maybe
bet you-
bring it up in
I don't
conversation.
I
fight with
can
people.
find it in 10 minutes.
Anyway, I don't
But are
think
you
they'll
being
find it.
authentic online? That would be the question to ask in the confessional. Are you presenting yourself in an authentic way?
I think so.
By hiding
yeah.
yourself?
Should I put my name? It's just because, let me tell you this. I don't want to scandalize people by putting my name on it because people know who I am, So I don't want them to see that I'm I don't know. Should I just
Then I
double
would
down
say
and just put
that's
my name on
something-
it?
Or ask yourself why you feel the necessity to have it.
Because what really bothers me, what really grinds my gears,
That'll be the next episode.
what really grinds my gears is people okay, I'll give you context behind this one. All right. There's this jewelry shop that is posing as Catholic. Okay. And they're posting online. And they posted oh, this is a tribute to the Hail Mary, whatever. And the Hail Mary was written incorrectly. I feel like that's a very basic.
But that's something you don't have to be hidden
You
when
don't
you
have to
share.
hide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
say,
I'm just hey, correctively. I just was hey, this is not
it's probably made on Temu.
something like that. Yeah, I was that's not
Temu?
the Hail Mary. And then they responded. And they're well, this is what I was taught. And I was well, the church teaches officially that this is the Hail Mary. I was maybe you heard it wrong because a lot of people do hear pray for our sinners, pray for us sinners. Sometimes it's out
Pray for the sinners.
you pray for the sinners. I was it may be audibly you could have heard it wrong.
Yeah.
And then somebody else came in and was yeah, they probably this is
Well, see
true.
that, but
You know what I mean?
Be
So I'm
authentic
not-
and honest
I'm
with
not
that.
hiding.
You don't have to hide
beefing.
that one.
I'm not beefing.
Yeah.
I'm glad we talked about this.
So, okay. So let's transition from that because I do want to ask you to share.
You want to ask me?
Yeah, well, because you and Esme would have more knowledge of it, and I didn't even know what was going on. So, since we're on social media and Scandal,
Oh yeah.
there are bigger influencers, believe it or not, than dramatic Catholics.
Oh, best
right?
believe
You better
that.
believe that, right?
Yep.
And so that the bigger platform, the bigger that the platform becomes, the more critique is
Yeah.
given, right? And so you want to speak a little bit on on that, and I know you can strike some of this, but anyway, like what happened over the summer, like with, and I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Oh my, we're getting into that.
We're not going to out him. I'm going to present this situation to you, Rob. Okay. Over the summer, there was an influencer, big name. I won't say his name. I won't out him. All right, because we're trying to move on from that. And he engaged in some, sexual activity. Okay. Allegedly. But he did confess to saying like, no, I had been like sleeping around with like some of the people that he like that followed him, kind of thing. So that he admitted to. And so he got a lot of backlash. He was canceled. People were like, I'm pulling you from this event he was supposed to speak at and all these things. So it's like, but that's the culture that we live in. Like, oh, you said this, you're canceled. Oh, you said this, you're canceled. I get scared. I didn't want to start this podcast because I'm like, what if somebody's gonna be like, I slip up and say one thing, you're canceled. But like, how do you? It's true though. But it's
cancel culture is very toxic.
It's very toxic. It's very real. So like, how do we go about that? So now, to give you, so that happened over the summer. Recently, he sat down. He goes to like an Eastern Rite church. Okay, so he sits down with his priest on like a live, kind of like this, and they're talking through what happened and the struggle. And yeah, so he's like trying to like, he's like, well, if I'm called to come back to this ministry, I'm called to come back to this ministry. So what would you say to kind of like, how do we navigate cancel culture, but also when like it's involved, like, some things that are scandalous?
Well, I think that any organization that puts on a conference or invites a speaker has to be very careful about who they're inviting and making sure that that person is living at least as publicly as possible and hopefully privately as possible an authentic Christian and Catholic life. It's one of the things that I've suggested and we're working towards here is to have a forum that when speakers come in that it's looked at by more than just the person doing the inviting, but that we're making sure that the persons that we invite, because in that role we're on behalf of something, whether it's a parish, whether it's a diocese, whether it's a Catholic organization, we're inviting a speaker on that behalf. So I wouldn't call it necessarily cancel culture. If somebody's accused of in a verifiable way of sexual abuse or of stepping out publicly, which it seems like he did by admitting to some sexual sin, that I think it's within the rights of an organization or a parish to say, you know what, we're going to pull back from having this speaker come because they've already admitted to not living an authentically Christian and Catholic life. But as far as canceling his podcast and people in an uproar about that, I mean, everybody has the right to choose whether or not they want to listen to somebody, and maybe they felt like they've been led astray, and that's a personal choice that we have to make anytime that we click that follow button, anytime that we listen to a podcast, anything like that. We need to hear that. But I would say, for somebody in that situation, that's a time of discernment to be like, it's not about the podcast. It's not about being a public influencer or speaker. It's about what you did and why did you do it? And why are you, why do you either justify it to yourself or why did it happen in the moment, and to work through that before deciding what am I going to do next with my life. And so I think we've given too much influence to influencers that, that they feel this is my career, this is my job, but it's not translating to their authentically and privately lived life. And it's the same for ministers, right? I've seen lay people that I worked with. I had one that I looked up to when I started going to the Kino Institute years ago, who the person that I looked up to is no longer a practicing Catholic and walked away from the church as a whole. And I had to deal with that to say, this is somebody that I learned so much about the faith from, that formed not just my understanding of the faith, but my outlook and my view. And then to see that this person is no longer practicing the faith, I had to wrestle with that. Now, in David and I's day and age, we didn't have to do that in a public sphere the way that social media has done now, but it's the same challenge. And, not knowing that case at all, I would encourage the individual, though, to really, it's not just walking away from being the public influencer. And I know that gives the endorphins or whatever, and you feel good about it. But
it pays a lot of money though.
Well, that's the challenge, right?
That's what we're doing here, Rob.
If you're getting paid a lot, if you're getting paid a lot of money, or if you're like us that work in the church and aren't getting paid a lot of money, you're still called to the same life. Am I being authentically Christian? If I'm putting myself out there, it has nothing to do with the dollars. It has everything to do with, am I authentically leading people to Christ with the way that I live my life? Not just what I put out there, but how I live my life. Because ultimately, truth will always come out. And, we want to, we talk about skeletons in the closet, right? We want to make sure that, we don't have those skeletons in the closet, and that if somebody were to know me in a personal way and to come into my private life, that they would say, okay, well, then who Rob is publicly is who Rob is privately. And I strive for that. Have I been perfect? No. I've made my mistakes over my life. And that's where the confessional comes in, and that's where I spiritual direction is helpful. That's where you have to change things about you. And going back to what Esme said about humility, right? We have to be humble. We have to humble ourselves. And it's hard for me to have a lot of understanding that if somebody was living one way privately and another way publicly, and now is kind of like, well, what do I do with my life? Should have thought of that before. And that's the challenge of taking on something public like this. Like, by choosing to do a podcast, you're saying, I'm putting myself out there, and I need to make sure that I'm discerning again and again. Going back to prior to social media, but some of the big influencers, like I think of, what was that guy's name? Father John Karapi was a big EWTN guy, and a lot of scandal came out about him that I won't even go into, but you can Google it. It's fun.
It's fun.
To so many, to my own pastor, who was a big, I guess you could say, Catholic influencer before influencing was good, who had to walk away from it. That's why I pray for guys like Father Mike Schmitz and pray for Bishop Barron and pray for those, because it's so important that they stay grounded. Yeah. And I'm not trying to toot Father Mike Schmitz's horn, but the fact that he does ministry in addition to his influencing and all that stuff, it keeps somebody more grounded than somebody that just runs off and says, I'm gonna go do this. I think of a particular bishop out of Texas who shall remain nameless, but the fact that he's no longer attached to a diocese has given him freedom to do whatever he wants, and he's leaned into his particular way of seeing the world, both politically and theologically. And that's a dangerous place to be, because we're not tethered to the church anymore. We're not tethered in a way that says, what is done in private, God sees. This is a bad thing to bring up. I probably should not, but it makes my point, because it affected our diocese so much several years ago. But we had a bishop here who got himself in a bit of trouble, and may have ran over a guy and then left the scene of the accident. And I remember allegedly. No. And I remember I used to watch The Tonight Show all the time, and Jay Leno was the Tonight Show host, and I remember him talking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, here Jay Leno's talking about our bishop here in Phoenix. And he goes, the bishop said that he didn't think anybody saw, so that's why it was safe to walk away or drive away. And he didn't think, as a bishop, maybe God was watching him. But it's true. I mean, how we are privately, God knows. Yeah. And at the end of it, like, that's how we're going to be judged, whether it comes out publicly or not. We have to live that life. And if we're trying to be authentic about the faith that we're sharing, are we in a place where we can stand before God and even though we're not perfect, at least be able to say, well, okay, that one, I can explain that.
I was trying.
I can explain that one.
Well, I mean, I think what's helpful, because I think what got the church into trouble in those early days of like the scandals is like the cover-up culture of it all.
I'll just throw out there, like, my trouble with the cancel culture is when somebody's canceled for saying truth. And when society doesn't agree with it. It's one thing to be canceled because you messed up.
For sure.
What is that? You done messed up, Aaron. You done messed up, right? But if you're speaking truth and people are like, okay, well, we're just going to cancel you because we don't agree with you. Well, that's where the cancel culture needs to chill out a little bit. And
For sure.
That's what I mean by it's toxic. It's like, now you're just picking and choosing what you want to cancel. But when it actively hurts your feelings is when you want to cancel me.
Well,
Okay.
Delila gives me a warning almost each and every time. I'm trying to think of a time where she doesn't, I get invited to sit in on a podcast, and then right before we start, she says, "And don't get us canceled." I'm like, Rob, thank you for what? Speaking the truth?
I'm so weak. I mean,
But the
whatever.
deliverance of truth.
The deliverance
Ooh.
of truth. Okay, I'll do that. I'll start doing that from my burner account. I'm sorry.
hey, I felt like this was a safe space to bring it up.
I
That could
just
be
didn't know that
used
was an
against
option.
I wanted.
I didn't know a
because-
burner account was optional. I will have one now.
You should.
I was just
you
setting
should.
myself up one.
I just felt like the need to say that. All right, because I think about that
Deliverance
because maybe I'm just
matters.
scared. I'm just scared to speak the truth sometimes. Maybe that's
Remember what Father said to you, though, many years ago when you didn't want to have the women's Bible study?
I'm gonna bleep that out. I'm gonna bleep out his name.
You were not made with a spirit of cowardice. You were made for a spirit of truth.
That was beautiful that he said that to me.
Still one of the most amazing
that
things I
honestly-
ever saw. I still tell people that story.
It was like it was one of those
You can't
moments.
bleep all
Though,
about it.
you know?
Let's do a shout out to Father again on that one because that was epic.
We should talk about that.
The scandal.
But no, it just speaking to that point, like just because somebody acts in a way that may be deemed as a mockery to the church doesn't mean that God can't still work through them. And I feel very
For
strongly
sure.
that in that moment it was God speaking through him to you because that's what you needed to hear.
Oh yeah.
That's what I think in a lot of ways pushed you into the work that you do now, is that it brought you were in a shell. You wanted to stay there. You wanted to stay in your safe place, and you needed to be drawn out of that. And he was the vehicle through which
He
the
did.
truth was heard. And so I think like that's something we have to be careful about too, is there may be, situations like, for example, my old pastor, the spiritual fruits of what he built still are bearing fruit today. The youth ministry organization he started still bears a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of young people whose lives have been completely transformed because of that youth ministry organization worldwide that have directly and positively impacted the church. Why? Because God was working through him, that despite of his own sin, despite of his failings, God works through. And that's an important thing about Scandal too, is that we have to see where God breaks through because he will. God is greater than any, scandal that we can throw at him. And when we can step back and say, okay, but is there truth here? Again, the sexual abuse scandal. What happened? We became stronger because of it. We as a church recognized that we had become lax, and this is, I don't want to give a whole history lesson, but going back to 1940s and 1950s Catholicism in the United States, we had become so insulated because of our issues with the Protestant America that we became so overprotective, and Father's word was everything. And you think of some of the movies of the time, like The Bells of St. Mary's and Going My Way, and Bing Crosby portrayed as the perfect parish priest. It put an idealism in us as a country where it allowed us as a church to insulate ourselves and to protect ourselves and to think that the institution was greater than the work that God was doing. And this is the case in other countries, Catholic countries. I think, Mexico, and how much Father is still seen as, the end all be all of everything. And that authority can put, people in an uneasiness. But that doesn't mean that the work that the Catholic Church did for the last 50 years was all for naught. There's a lot of great things that still came out of there. And the sexual abuse scandal, though one of the most tragic things that we've had to deal with and accept in our church's history, has helped to create a stronger, more transparent church. And that's where Christ can do his work more and more. And so I think that even, to this particular priest that may have a scandal surrounding him, there's still, God still works through him. There's still truth. And, that goes back to think about like the Donatist scandal with St. Augustine and all that back in the early days of the church, where they say, well, yeah, any hint of scandal, any hint of impropriety, and the priest's
Diminishes
sacraments
your-
are completely invalidated. Well, then that's because we're putting our emphasis and our hope in a person. And St. Augustine said, no, it's Jesus. It's Jesus working through it. It's his grace. And we're merely the vehicle for it. So Yeah, I sorry to respond so strongly to that, but I think there's that part of scandal too, is that, if we become so overcome by scandal, we forget that God is at work.
No, and I think that's why it was important to talk about it, because like if we say like we're trying to be better, we're trying to be a better church, we have to acknowledge those things. We have to acknowledge that it's happened. We have to talk about it. I think it was important we had been talking about that we wanted to talk about scandal, but I think all in God's timing, and I think this is fitting. I'd like to be a part of the church where we're not involved in that secrecy, but we can call it out and we can be better. We can help those who have been hurt by the church. We can, especially as ministers, whoever's listening who does work for the church, like how can we be better and continuously like build a stronger, unity between
community.
Yeah, in a community within our parishes.
The frustrating part is when you when something could be done and then it's not. Mm-hmm. The scandal begins. It's not the actions necessarily of an individual. I mean, that's where it starts. But the fanning of the flames is when it's not talked about, like the secrecy. And maybe it's not intentional to be secret, but when you say and do nothing publicly, the scandal, the cause of scandal can happen because when you don't know, it's above your pay grade to know, and those things. Just on a lighter note, I want to share a funny story. I was helping a youth group one day, setting up in the gym just recently, a few months ago, and one of the young adults, and I say he's young, he's only, I think Sylvester's 19, I think. Yeah, isn't that his name? Oh, I'm sorry, Sebastian. Strike that.
Oh,
Sebastian.
I was like, who's Sylvester?
Sebastian. Well,
Yeah, he's 19.
19. Yeah. So him and he comes in to help and putting carpets down, and he's walking up and he's looking at me like a cat who caught the mouse. He's like looking at me, just shaking his head, and his sister's right behind him, his twin sister, and he's like, "Ooh." He goes, "We know something about you." And I was like, "Are you here to help or what?" And he's like, yeah. He goes, "But hey, we found out something about you." I'm like, "Okay, what?" You were at the casino on Saturday. And right away, I was like, "Oh yeah, I ran into your mom." And then he goes, "Yeah, she told us that she saw you at the casino." I was like, "Yeah, I went up to her and said hello." He goes, "Well, what are you doing at the casino? You're not supposed to be there." I said, "You asked your mom what she was doing at the casino?" I said, "Just so you know, like going to the casino is not a sin. Like I pay all my bills. I pay what I have to do. I tithe."
And you'll tithe what you win at the casino too.
Well, 10%, Rob.
10%.
That's
crazy.
We're trying to make it out here too.
I know.
But I think like that. I mean, to your point of like what you posting your social life, being out. It was your birthday weekend, a couple weeks ago, and being out and having fun, and we just like we kind of look at each other and like, people are calling you out
I'm not
for
hiding anything.
We're living.
Yeah.
And I think like when the young adults come to my house and I'm cooking for them, I had a guys' night last year sometime, and all the guys came over and they show up and I'm cooking steaks for them with a beer in my hand. I've got oldies playing, and one of them walked in. He's like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. It's a cool vibe." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." He goes, "This isn't what I was expecting when you invited me." I was like, "What were you expecting? Like Gregorian chant, incense?" "We're having steak, bro. Have a seat."
Have a seat. No, that's true. That's true. All in moderation,
Right.
All in moderation, Yeah. Don't drink to the point of getting drunk or anything,
No.
but like you can vibe. Right, Rob?
Absolutely.
Do you have any? I know you have a meeting coming up. So do you have any final thoughts?
That's a fun meeting too.
They're all fun.
They're all fun. I know it can sometimes see like I'm reducing somebody's hurt by saying, we have to put our trust in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite quotes from Flannery O'Connor, she said, it's true, you must sometimes suffer as much from the church as for it.
Dang.
And, but I think to keep in mind is that, and David, you had mentioned about us living in a subjective world. The truth is we all come with our subjective experiences. And I was thinking about this as you were talking about how somebody can look at the same picture, how two different people can look at the same picture and see it completely differently, is that there is no objective viewpoints for us. Like even when we look at something that one might perceive as scandalous and one might perceive as, like, yes, they were right, is that we bring to any of our lens all of our experiences, our whole life experience, how we were brought up, how we were trained, how we were formed, all that comes into how we see anything. And so it's important for us, like the little that we can do in our small corner of the world, is to try to reform our brains to see through the lens of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Right? To see the world as he wants us to see it. And, we used to talk about, now I guess it's blue and red, but we used to talk about the world being black and white and all that. and I always looked at that and said, but the world is filled with many colors. And Christ wants us to see all of that. And sometimes that means that I have to humble myself and retrain myself from viewing something. With this recent shooting in Minnesota, both of them, we forget that on the one end, there's a human person that died. That regardless of how you see their actions and how you judge their actions or how you judge the actions of the ICE agents, there is a human being whose life was lost. And that is an unrepeatable person here in this world who will no longer be here. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, no matter how maybe that ICE agent viewed their actions, they took a life, and that changes somebody. Mm-hmm. That will always be with them wherever they go. And we don't think about that. That's not talked about enough as well, is that, even if they felt they were justified in the moment, and even if everybody's slapping them on the back, not everybody, but everybody on their mm-hmm. areas slapping them on the back saying, you did well, you did right, they still have to deal with that. But God sees all of it. And so we have to try and retrain ourselves to see our world through the lens of Christ and to form ourselves to live in that way, because at the end of the day, God sees everything. There's nothing that is hidden, and he wants to know our heart. He wants us to love like him. I mean, that's the whole point of the Beatitudes, which will be the gospel this weekend, although I imagine this isn't coming out like this week. So
we'll see.
Sometime around here, you will hear the gospel where we talk about the Beatitudes. And that's what Christ was trying to get us to see, is to see the world differently mm-hmm. and to transform ourselves. And so please don't think I'm trying to, for those out there who are listening who may have been hurt by the church or hurt by people in the church, I'm not trying to reduce your hurt, but it's to, Christ is calling you to stand up. Think about, the adulterous woman. What she did, this sometimes isn't talked about when we preach on this, but what she did was wrong. She mm-hmm. broke the 10 Commandments. She sinned. But God gave her a new chance, and that's why he said to her, does no one condemn you? No, sir. Well, then neither do I. Stand. Live a new life. Like be changed. Be transformed. Right? That's what Christ is calling us to. When we're hurt, like the woman at the well, whether it's our own actions or whether it's the actions of the community around us, Christ calls us to stand and to be transformed in that. I know you spoke about that transformation, and that's really the way we rise above scandal, is we don't let it tear us away from that relationship with Jesus, because that is the most important relationship we will ever have. Our marriages, our families should be seen through that relationship with Christ. And if we put that at the heart and the center of everything that we are and who we are, then we can ride the waves of scandal, and we can keep ourselves from being the cause of scandal if we always turn to Jesus and live as he's called us to live.
Amen. Our faith is in Jesus. And the church can be wounded and still be true.
True.
Love prevails.
Love prevails. Oh, man. This is great. I had that song stuck. Reunited and it feels so good. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
That's crazy. You know what song I'm talking about?
Yes,
Like
Peaches
Rob.
and Herb.
Thank you. I didn't know who sang it, but that's what I thought of. It's been a minute.
I really don't know that song.
Rob,
Literally? That's crazy.
I'm getting old.
It's probably from your era.
Rob, you can name every mascot
It's an
in the
old
United
song.
States from every college. I still find that amazing. He rattled that off at a staff Christmas party at my house, and I've never forgotten.
Shh, we don't want this parish to know that I used to go to Christmas parties.
Oh my gosh!
yikes.
And that you love ice cream.
You love ice cream. We would have taken you for ice cream
And
if you had time. He's like, I can't. I'm done. His filter has run low. He's like, it's time. Well, thank you for being on. We appreciate your wisdom and your years of experience and all your degrees and all the things. I felt you were the perfect person to sit here and have this conversation.
Hopefully I don't get you canceled.
I don't think so at all.
No.
Okay.
No, I think this was good.
Yeah.
This was good. I'm glad we talked about it. So,
You're
anything else?
definitely a sign of hope, Bob.
Bob.
I was going to go with Bob Cook. Why did that name come up?
Bob Cook.
Yeah, I went to play softball with him yesterday.
Random.
Rob. Maybe that's why Bob and Rob. Rob, you definitely are a sign of hope.
Thank you.
I love our friendship, our brotherhood, and I know I'm not crazy because I have a relationship with the Lord, but you constantly bring me back. So I do appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for everybody who stayed this whole entire time to listen to this podcast.
That will be shortened.
That
through
will be
editing.
shortened through editing. But even if this was a hard topic to listen to, we're happy that you were here and able to join us today. So if you haven't already, please make sure to, as we talk about social media, please like and subscribe. Comment if you have a question.
To Delilah's burner account.
If you can find it, I'll give you $50. No, I'm just
Wow.
kidding. No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
hey,
Please don't find. I'm kidding. Esme was like, she was ready. I'm kidding. I don't have $50 because
Get work for the church.
I work for the church, guys. But anyway, well, thank you so much for coming, and we will see you next time on
Dramatic Catholics.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace out.
Peace and love and hope and strength.